The 2018 Lexus LS 500 is all new for this model year, and as such, it is loaded with the latest that Lexus has to offer in in-car tech. Let's take a look. We'll start here at the bottom and work our way up. Down here we have two switches, one for the rear sunshade and the other for the seat settings. Now there is no traditional switch for your heated seats. You will have to tap this button, then use the next thing I'm about to talk about to navigate through two menus to turn your heated seats on. Sounds fun, right? Now just above it we have the Trackpad. This is how you manipulate Lexus's infotainment system. It uses haptic feedback to let you know when your fingers kind of arrived at a certain tile, and it kind of locks it in place there for a second. It's a little weird to feel, but if it's your only infotainment system, you will eventually get used to it. However, it is still very difficult to use while driving, I'm not gonna lie, so thankfully we're not moving for this one. Now just above the Trackpad you have a map and menu button. Map allows you to quickly access the navigation map in the event you're going somewhere and you don't know where you're going. And next to it is menu, which allows shortcuts to basically everything the infotainment system offers. Once again, we have another weird shifter here. This one is modeled off the Prius from a while ago. If you want to go into park, there's a big old P button, that's pretty self-explanatory. But any other manipulation of the shifter involves you holding it left and then moving it up for reverse, or holding it there for neutral, or back and down for drive. A little weird, but again, you get used to it. And up above the gear shifter, you have this really weird, strange slotted thing. Now, I'm a millennial, I'm not too sure what this is, but I asked my very old cameraman and he told me it is a CD player. And now up above the CD player, we have a little more in the way of navigation controls. You can access your radio and media through these buttons, as well as swap between tracks. Just above that, you have a pretty straightforward climate control system. However, not every setting is available via switch. If somebody, say, moves the passenger one, you want to resync the two temperatures, guess where you have to go? Back into the infotainment system. Yeah. Now, last but certainly not least, actually, well, definitely least, is the infotainment system. Up top, you get a 12-inch screen that allows you to either display just one thing across its whole width or split it up into two so you have a little more effective use of your space. You can have your music on the right, your map on the left, or any mixture of combination with phone and apps and anything else you have going on. Now the first item on the menu is the map. Once you click into that, you get a nice big map spanning the whole width of the screen. Now it's not just a map, of course. You're allowed to input destinations by contacts or favorites or recents, or just good old-fashioned search. Just bring up the search and then use this not great trackpad to type something in, or thankfully you can use voice, and you can put in names or addresses and it will help you find your destination. Now moving right from the menu, we have radio and media. Radio is once again, like most expensive cars these days, split between AM, FM, and Sirius XM satellite. Moving over to media, you're allowed to use not only the compact disc player that I talked about earlier, but also USB input and Bluetooth. Now next we have the phone. This one is again pretty simple. Just click on it and you can look at your contacts, your favorites, your history, or you can just go straight to the keypad and begin to fumble horribly through a number as you are forced once again to use the trackpad. Now after phone we have apps, which is Lexus's built-in suite of applications. You get Pandora, iHeartRadio, Slacker, NPR, Yelp. You can look up fuel prices or stocks or check out sports scores. Now there's just one problem with this app suite, and that it's not really on the infotainment system, so to speak. It's actually on an app on your phone that you then connect to your infotainment, which allows you to use the apps. Now that's a little roundabout for my taste, especially in an $88,000 car, but hey, at least they're there. Now next you have the Info tab, which gives you some info, believe it or not. It allows you to look at your fuel economy. It lets you see local traffic incidents, the weather in your area. It even lets you look at the old alerts that your vehicle has received to make sure you're actually paying attention to and following up on them, as well as an e-owner's manual, which is nice because Lexus's book is a little voluminous. Next, you have your setup, which allows you to go through just about any setting possible. You can adjust your Bluetooth, your audio, your phone, things that happen to pertain to the vehicle, or just general settings like clock and language and other display settings like that. It's all pretty straightforward. Now last we have climate. Like I said before, the entire bank of switches down here does not really cover everything, so Lexus offloaded some of it to the infotainment system. Once you click in, you can access the syncing for the zones, you can check your seat settings, or you can access Lexus Concierge, which uses the heating of the seat and the steering wheel in conjunction with the HVAC system to provide a more even feel throughout the cabin. Now that may be it for the infotainment screen, but that is not all in general. Let's move over to the gauge cluster. Now you might have seen this gauge cluster before. It came up in Lexus's Performance RCF Coupe as well as in a couple of different models. It moves around a little bit, it shows you a bit of information about the car. It's just more than your average gauge cluster. So the only way to manipulate the gauge cluster is by using the bank of up, down, left, and right switches over here on the left side of the steering wheel. Using up and down, you can look through different options to display on the center gauge cluster, such as your range, or your tire pressures, or how well your lane keep assist is working. Now, if that's not enough for you, you can tap this little guy on the steering wheel here and shift the whole gauge cluster over to the right. It allows you to look at all the things you looked at before, just in greater detail. In addition to that, you also get, because this is the sporty car, a G-force and boost gauge meter. Now I know it was a long journey, but we have in fact reached our destination. Thank you for checking out all the tech in the 2018 Lexus LS 500, and don't forget to check out our full review over at theroadshow.com.